Hello, I'm Anna Titovets in Tectra, and I'm happy to welcome you at our today's live event. This is part of public program EMA Expo 2021 with the umbrella topic Are we building the new world together? And today we are going to witness a quite unusual talk by Lucas Gutierrez, a participant artist of the exhibition Superfluidity, in conversation with the curator of the show, Peter Kirn. Be aware, the talk will take place on the other side of the artist screen in the fantastic 3D environments. Thank you for joining us and enjoy!
Okay. Hi, Peter. Thank you, Anna, for the introduction. Hi, Peter. How are
Hey,
you?
Lucas. Yeah, thanks so much, Anna. I'm good. I'm Peter Kirn, also part of the curatorial team here in Berlin, but also coming to you live from inside this metaverse. And we're really happy to be here with Lucas Gutierrez, one of our artists.
Hi,
So
Peter.
welcome, Lucas.
Yeah. Hi, thank you.
I shouldn't say welcome because I'm kind of I'm stepping into your world. So tell us a little bit about what people are seeing here.
Yeah, sure. Well, today I sort of put together the things that are more or less we introduced in one of the pieces that is currently exhibited in the museum, which is I Need a Work from Shining. And so by that time, together with the duo from Berlin, Pierre and Eileen, we start to dig into some topics and terms that in this room and this space, and somehow they're collapsing together. And hopefully during the conversation, we're gonna face and crash against those as a sort of visual imaginary and try to guide us and this in this conversation. There are a lot of elements that probably come from different sides, like the sculptures that I produce and I take out of the game. So let's take this space more as a sort of dream platform, maybe just to connect the dots of this conversation. So
I like that. Well, and we should say maybe literally what this is, that you're working in this 3D engine called Unity. And so you're able to take the art objects that you're imagining in this sort of virtual sense and move them into this 3D world. So in other words, that this is a kind of a custom environment that you've made out of things from your imagination, if I'm saying that accurately.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, this room doesn't exist. So and somehow I tried.
What? No.
But you are in one of them. So the idea of building spaces and also like trying to make this ping pong of things that actually now exist, because I took them out of the game, like the heads that are currently on exhibition, and also some of the pieces that were literally born in virtual spaces. So I'm always trying to play this kind of cross media game about moving and stressing the pieces through different platform and different time frame, because this is actually one of the room that I started pretty much when I was learning Unity, just to name one of the softwares. So this room is kind of I'm filling it with some, bringing back some current projects, ongoing pieces, and also like potentially it could be some of the scenarios or background that I will use in one of my audiovisual performances soon, which is a different conversation. But there are a lot of elements that exist already, and initially they were just an abstraction or part of our research for my ongoing projects.
Right. We're really wandering around the fragments from inside your brain. It really is a bit like walking around a dream world or your imagination. And then all of these objects that we see are also have become pieces of the exhibition that people watching from Moscow may have seen in person, and then also that they are pieces of other artworks. But just so that we understand, because we talked about this, I remember when we first chatted about this coming exhibition, that you work a lot of the time from that virtual sense first, and then think about how to kind of spin that into the physical, right? And not only in the sense of like you have an art object in mind, you go in, you model it, but it sounds almost like, are you kind of using the virtual version as this sort of extension of your brain? Is that where you're sort of working out ideas, or what's the process? Is there some stuff that kind of stays in the virtual and doesn't become physical?
I mean, there's different steps where when I'm really looking into this part of the piece. Let's say, for example, the heads, or the idea to creating an omnidirectional sculpture that only lives and exists with other elements in a virtual platform. That was just probably the first output I had by that time I was thinking about this. It was, but usually I sketch a lot and tools like this right now, because I mean, the idea of like multitasking, continuing, backhopping, there's a workflow that I'm constantly building up, and I need a room to fill more or less with all of these ideas and processes, that to see how they coexist and if they really can live together. This is just
well, really, so you actually kind of, I mean, in addition to, this is a cool place for us to kind of wander around, you're actually sort of throwing models into this world to see how they relate. So you actually kind of use this as a playground when you're developing ideas as well?
Yeah, of course. There's also like an inner side that I'm trying to see if there is a connection over the period of time. You know, like the moment that I create this room, there was literally another year, and now bringing and dropping stuff that are just probably just like a fresh metaphor that I built in a virtual with a different perspective, different elements, color. So I'm trying also to use it as a tool to align and to see from different perspectives the thing that I create. They don't necessarily need to stay here forever, but sometimes I do like this idea of ping pong. You know, like do a 3D model, take it out of the game, print it, then 3D scan it, and bring it back to really remix yourself and see if that's the loop of this.
So you'll take it all the way around. You'll make an object and then 3D print it, and then scan the 3D printed object and bring it back in?
Yeah, that's one of the projects, for example. Yeah, it's like a sort of reposting forever or something like that until this will degrade in a digital matter. I don't know.
Hold on, it's time for, go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, and for example, the moment that we created, we brainstormed the I Need a Break from Shining piece, there was probably I mean, we literally did it in a long distance. I wasn't traveling in Argentina by then, and we have a different connection about the topic, but we sat together, and Pierre was scripting the whole narrative of the video. And by then we thought about the moment. I mean, the piece is it's focused on digital narcissism, and seeing that in 2021, let's say. Of course, I see so many different things coming. Let's say for not even talking about face filters, but and the moment that we try to explain visually, you know, the through the dance and to the way of Ovin, which is Darwin, the actor, is making the narrative of the piece and trying to explain this sort of pre-process of selection of content before going online, and trying to recreate an idea that someone is waiting for your content outside. So we try to recreate something between the computer, your choices, your idea of yourself, and what happened in between, like who is asking you for this, and then we recreate some moments of it's just getting lost into that, which is probably more clear for us over the course of what happened this year? Like there is so many thoughts about.
So this is 2017, right? That you've made the first iteration of this piece. So for those watching, when Lucas talks about doing this remote, this is not, I know that's not news over the past 15 months, but this was 2017, so not during the pandemic. So some of these kind of meditations about remote collaboration and trying to understand digital self and narcissism, or before, a couple of years before everything went down. Hold on, I'm going to get a coffee, which means let's see what the algorithm's going to do to it. Yeah, it's
yeah. Imagine, I mean, by then we haven't, of course, we have a bit sure about. It just ended up that we pretty much been talking about narcissism, but at the beginning, one of the other sources of thoughts we have was about also like faith or religion, or like what we believe in this environment, and what we trust. And of course, like the windows are completely different. And
I was going to say, can you sort of keep us situated by this video? So if you have seen the exhibition at MoMA, you will recognize some of these video elements from Lucas's piece, even if you weren't reading the placards carefully or aren't part of the curatorial team watching. And tell us a little bit about your collaborators on that piece, right? So you have this dancer and then a director, this Charles and Schnabel. So who are Pierre, and tell us who these folks are and how you work together.
Yeah, we actually had a collaboration in 2015 or 16. I remember we get to know, and mostly in the audiovisual world, right? So I made the music for one of his video pieces in the past, and since then we feel the need to kind of collapse again with two different perspectives. And then this project was part actually from Vorspiel in 2017, and it was exhibited in the first floor of Rita Butzke Club. They was having a gallery space over there. And
so this is a club in the middle of kind of old club, grimy club in the middle of Berlin.
Yeah.
So you were in the basement.
So we went there. We had a 20-minute screen. We had a projection, and then over the process, we work in 3 different levels. Like text was done by Pierre, the layout by Eileen. Together we decide the visual elements and also the way that we script the cuts and so on. The assistant was Jubal, and of it, the performer was Darwin, which was an excellent way of picturing or thoughts. That was completely like something that I watched really far away. And the piece is 15 minutes. It's also like kind of it was a feeling that it was a short, but in that time we haven't been thinking about this idea of like the length of the content, like how much we should watch pieces or something like that. And the structure of the piece is pretty much like 7 minutes introducing the tools to improve yourself, kind of. And
because you have this sort of concept of
tutorial.
Right. You mean it as a kind of a both a critique. It sounds like kind of a critique and a remedy that you're proposing for this state of sort of narcissism, having to kind of constantly manage your own image in this virtual world.
Yeah, watching this right now, of course, like definitely like a tutorial for you to learn how to improve yourself or how to make your digital self better. But we go beyond that. There is a moment that, let's say, the tools we are using just don't show you the crispy side of yourself. They start to dig and to get more deeper into that. So there's a part of the piece that is kind of talking about that. Like now we have so many tools, we have so many ways to really improve, or at least we like to think about that. And the way we use it is it's a bit more radical at the moment.
I'm going to be totally honest here and say and disclose how my rig works, which is as I keep staring into the middle distance, it's because I'm seeing the YouTube video feed on my computer monitor, which is over here,
Uh-huh.
on the delay that YouTube broadcasting gets, which is about 9 seconds. And then I'm looking back at you all watching the stream when I look this direction, back at my iPhone. But I'm actually seeing just a lovely empty black screen, not actually Lucas's face, but I know what Lucas looks like. So when I hear his voice, this isn't good. Well, also I'm, as a Generation X member and all other people my age, I think whether you grew up in the US like I did, or here in Europe, or in the Soviet Union, if you're my age, you are kind of used to this idea of talking to people on the phone. I know that I've been reading a lot about why people find Zoom calls stressful, that it's sort of triggering the wrong emotional responses, right? Because you have, for one, well, I've seen two theories. One of them was that part of what happens is that your fight or flight, I don't know, this may depend on who your coworkers are, but that your fight or flight gets triggered by seeing all these faces looking at you, that we're not used to suddenly being kind of confronted by a giant bunch of squares of everybody staring directly at us, right? And that the other theory was that the reverse was also problematic. So in addition to feeling a little threatened by having to stare head on at people for an entire day, that the other thing that stresses some people out is kind of seeing yourself in the video looking back at you. I turned on all the filters, so I look great. So I'm not worried about that. It's appealing to my narcissism. But then in fact, this kind of self-focus is traumatic for a lot of people. I don't know how do you feel about Zoom calls, Lucas? Are you,
well, I mean, last year was,
you're mostly working alone?
Yeah, I mean, last year, to be honest, last year I just get to know about Zoom in the first week of pandemic, so I have to do it with that. But I was not really. I think maybe in the last part of the year I was really involved, because some projects I definitely have to move it to that channel, more or less. But at the same way, I have to take it as a sort of step. I mean, let's say one of the project was that we've been kind of close to that Zoom fatigue or whatever tool it is, was like CTM, but it was a virtual environment. I have to think from that side, like we have initially the possibility to meet together, to have some initial creative meetings to think about that. But at the same time, I thought like, okay, if this is a virtual space, if we are going to gather together, if I have to construct and build and think the elements from one side, I should definitely go all in. And it took me a while, of course, but I'm fine. I'm still alive.
Yeah, we're all very grateful for that.
Yeah, and also like the thing is like we all sort of have been pushed to this, like there is other ways, but you have to also communicate and deal with others through this on medium, and someone can take it good, bad, I don't know. But for me, it was always since the beginning, not only that these 2 years, I was opening my laptop for work, closing and open again to feel close to my family. So as a product, as a I don't see the difference. I just need to understand what I'm doing in front of this. And so
you were Skyping so Lucas comes from Argentina. So we're both Americans from North and South America, but you're Skyping with your family. Does your family use video?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now when internet is a bit better, yes. But at the beginning, it was also what you mentioned, like the idea that how we have never, our voices is completely different. Like it's completely different. So, but it's also this I always try to especially now in the last part of how we've been pushed and moved to use some mediums and platforms and tools and plugins and all the things that you have to learn just to basically communicate and make the thing, create your outputs. I always try to stop and between, and just probably because my background as an industrial designer, just to identify which are the products related to that, like how far our voice or how far our emotions have to go through some filters just to really land on the other side. So in this case, I mean, this space is just an environment. I can take decisions on that. I can just assign some movement, procedural movement, generative movement, and just sit and watch. But when you're really trying to communicate in this direct line, like we are having right now, and you have to go to all of these levels of understanding without even saying VR, like just a proper Zoom call. I like to understand those processes and to see how I'm going through that, and probably one of the thoughts is just trying to criticize a little bit or analyzing too much the products behind that. Not in a scientific way, but mostly on the philosophical, romantic part, like why things became obsolete, or why we get some fatigue by using that, because maybe we are coming with so many all emotion. We bring a lot of stuff to those platforms and we make them collapse. So these tools probably were not built for this, for I don't know. But now if we are using it in mass and in a way, they will definitely be stressed, and that's the part I'm really interested about that. From taking a game out of the game, printing, sending to a building that only make a windows, and I just make a molest with one piece just to interrupt one process. That's probably something that is maybe like an accent or something that I like to experiment.
Right. Was I Need a Break from Shining, was this autobiographical in any way? We see a lot of you on social media, on Instagram and things, and I know that you have to promote. Well, as artists, we kind of have to promote what we're doing all the time, and you do that really, really well, right? You have a really good. There's lots of colorful and compelling stuff on socials from you all the time. But was the tension with that autobiographical in any way? Did you feel stressed out by it, or
for the piece? No, not really. No.
You're cool.
I mean, autobiography. Not sure, but I'm sure there is some things involved. It's not a clear picture of what reflect to me, but yeah, but it's probably the way of
you're sharing your stuff as you're sharing your artwork, right? So you get to share. You're not in this position of being an influencer, like you're not doing what I'm doing now, like I said, showing my beautiful face or whatever, right? So maybe is there a difference to being able to have this artistic content as a mediator in terms of how you're seen by other people, and not only have it just sort of be your yourself or some other kind of forced identity?
Very complex question. At the beginning, just to give an example, like I was posting. If we are talking about the way that we express or we communicate out of what we are doing or what we are or whatever, what we want to really share, right? Nobody's asking you for that. That's one of the things that we like to reflect on and our piece that is now screening in the museum. So nobody's asking you or who is asking you. We are trying to identify those things. Without talking about that, creating your own profile or your image in one platform, there was one funny moment. Like I was just sharing stuff what I was doing at Sketches, and a close friend just told me like, I think you should post a picture of you, like in a very natural, basic comment, like who are you? Like who is behind? And it doesn't have to be like involved to a very deep research scientific way of thinking. Like I really wanted to see who is behind, and so in the way that I would start to communicate, okay, maybe it's something that I'm doing more often, just like showing a picture of me every month or something like that. But it's just a very stupid result, like it's a different way of expression, and maybe it's nonsense, but it also like a sort of archiving the way that you just communicate in one side. Like it's just what I'm doing in that fragment of the net. since I'm moving, or I've been moving, or I was switching from place to place on the last, let's say 5, 7 years or 10 years, I'm using tool and I leave the tool or use the tool platform until they cannot really handle my emotions, my feeling or something. So I think that's maybe how they became obsolete for me, but not really. There's not a really curated point of view on how I can. What about you? How you see, for example, I feel like a very interesting selection of artists for the exhibition, and I'm also like very curious about the curatorial side of this new new waves, new artworks, all artworks, perspective, new thoughts, and so on. Like, maybe that's my question for you, Peter.
What was the question?
Like, how is the process of selection within the hardcore transformation, like that we are having and within this year or not? I don't know. This exhibition is physical as well, but some of the artworks have been born and created with digital tools, which is a virtual.
I think all of them in some sense. So the selection process for us, for the team working, myself and Gleb and Anna, we, because of this connection to sound too, I think all of the artists have a musical or sonic life, and so there is a sense of the installations are physical manifestations of people's imagination. So I think one common theme is that people also conditioned by the fact that they're musicians, and you're always working in something that's ephemeral and invisible and involves vibrations and sound artists and musicians. The work that's physically installed in the museum space is also has gone through this transformation from what's inside people's heads into some kind of virtual sense, and then into the physical. I guess you can say that about all visual art, but it does. The difference is that a lot of those works also work in some kind of virtual sense. So because you all are musicians and sound artists, you're comfortable with going back to those kind of fluid virtual identities too. And that may be less true of people used to working in physical media. I'm intrigued by, I'm looking at comments, and not to dodge that question because there's more to say. Well, I should also say, I think the other exciting thing about this particular exhibition was when we're unable to travel, and we're in such incongruous situations. Europe has been shut down. Russia has been wide open. Gleb and I know each other because I have been traveling back and forth a lot, and a lot of my friends and colleagues and sort of our scene exists with one foot in Russia and one foot in Berlin, or one foot in Berlin and one foot in other places. You and I have our families in another place. It was important to us to kind of take this opportunity to bring people together, to be able to have artists that we knew where your work would work in the virtual, and that your work would just logistically could be transported to Moscow, and also that we could kind of keep some of those connections going without doing the thing that we normally do of doing live events. So that's been really important for all the European artists, and for you, and I think also for Berka and her work, and so we're grateful for that collaboration. I'm intrigued, speaking of things in the virtual, hello to Sonia, or whose name is also Sonia, hello. Insurance, it's just a single word in YouTube comments that says insurance.
Insurance.
So does it, yeah, does it say insurance somewhere in the, because I'm kind of, my eyes are going back and forth to the camera.
I don't know, we can take a look.
Does it have another meaning? Sonia, if you're still there, what does insurance mean? Or will it remain a mystery?
Well, I mean, I don't know, but we some of the sentences that we use for the description, and they sort of exist in this environment, are related also to the process of creation of the project. For example, like the crying in VR, or high digital emotions. And maybe we can take from Sonia the insurance. There's a new it's not here, but maybe if she can complete the phrase, we can just talk about about that. I just have one in mind. It was not in the list, but it's like global catastrophes insurances for what's next. Like if I want to talk it about.
I don't think you said insurance, but yeah. So I don't know what it. I don't know what it means. That's it. It derailed the whole conversation. I'm just going to be interested in whatever that means. But Sonia, if you're there, I want to explain what insurance is, or if someone knows Sonia and can message her and ask her, I'll be hugely grateful to know. Also, Jose Luis asks, looks great. What tools would you recommend? Is this Unreal Engine? And no, it's not. It's the other one. But you could recommend Unreal. It's a similar kind of tool, but you're using the other one that starts with U.
Yeah.
Unity. Unity.
Take the one that suits you better. I mean, I start with both, basically. But now this is Unity.
I mean, what you're seeing is also basically 3D models in some kind of world renderer with some. You're not leaning a whole lot on stuff that's included in Unity by default. I mean, you could easily, if somebody forced you, you could easily recreate what you're seeing here in another environment and many other environments.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, the way that I build my narrative is just I have to move to a real-time software that can offer me some possibilities to see and to experiment with that. Like not only from simulations, just only for real-time visualizations, I would say. So I'm trying to make some visuals for the conversation we are having and why we are talking about that.
Yeah, so you're messing with a lot of stuff as we're talking, right? So when you say real time, that means that you're able to kind of mess with parameters. And I mean, there's some part of your process that is, making models and stuff that's a bit slower. But that once you kind of throw it into this world, you're not having to recode stuff. Like I don't see you typing. You're able to just kind of change some parameters and mess with stuff in a really fluid, really kind of plastic way, right?
Yeah, exactly. Actually, the one of the elements, or at least in one of the here we have let's say the heads were born in a 3D in a 3D software, and then I moved it to Unity, and I was trying to make some sort of simulation out of that. Then I decided to stop that part of recreating or mimicking reality in a virtual software. So I just decided to bring it out of the virtual environment just to see what I can do with the actual physical element. And that was very interesting for me that you guys took it and bring it to a physical exhibition, like it sort of slapped a thought I was having. I don't know, they're like literally the two pieces that I'm exhibiting, they were not made in this year or last year. And when we supposed to be kind of creating some fresh content all the time, like kind of non-breaks, like continue create, especially over the course of this time. Like there was so many festivals that needs to readapt to some hybrid formats, and the wave of new projects or the adaptations of artworks have been massive. Works have to be adapted or like to virtual platforms. So for me, it was super interesting to see that actually the two pieces I have they were not really adapted at all. They just basically move in the final end, like a video and a sculpture. And now I'm trying to have a conversation here where they actually belong, because one of the landscape that there's pretty much at the end of the experimental shown film, it's, let's say it's this wall. You will see it in a minute. So this wall is moving, and also the heads, when I was having the first image of a potential big scale exhibition, were exactly in this room, more or less. So for me, it's a sort of like coming back to talk about something that is and the source or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm never as worried, I guess, about how new things are. I sort of, also because I feel pretty strongly like some things come in waves. So sometimes sometimes it's the work from 3 or 4 years back that's more relative in this moment than some of the stuff that's newer. I kind of resist this. I guess I'm sort of, I mean, it's great on another hand. It's great on the other hand to kind of be in the moment and adapt. And which is the nice thing about live performance. But at the same time, you can also feel sometimes that process is forced, and that it may mean that the work doesn't have time to evolve. So yeah, I was happy to kind of, I'm just like,
Get distracted by that.
I was distracted by interesting comments. Yeah, no, I'm glad to have older works. I was saying that in too long a way. I like what Mikhail writes here. Stream topic: why my first work in UE4 looks so weird. I like that. But maybe that speaks to stuff that gets kind of thrown together really fast. No, there's a pandemic on. You have to make everything virtual. I don't know if that means he's bored by us, or, but sorry. There's also a question.
But there was a comment that was saying like, because there is a pandemic, we have to make everything virtual. No.
That may not be what bored is. I'm enjoying all of these mysterious comments that we're getting on YouTube. If you're watching and you're not commenting and you have a question, the chats in YouTube are where we're reading questions from, and I can multitask. Or at least I'm as distracted doing two things at once as I am distracted doing one thing at once. So feel free to ask questions there. For instance, Julian asks, what's your ultimate goal with your vision as a designer of digital environments? Your ultimate goal? Money, right? With capitalism was that's my, that's my cue for the other theme of your work, suffering from capitalism. That's
ultimate maybe
always our
much.
Ultimate goal, all about the euros, and which if I position it right, I will become a talking euro. No, but there's a second part of the question. Once we manage to get ourselves more embedded into virtuality, what would you like to research further? So yeah, I guess to ask, maybe I can rephrase that, Julian, to say to Lucas, how has your kind of vision of what you're trying to do? Has it shifted? Is there a direction that you're ready to go after this? What got you into this virtual space in the first place, and where might you like to go afterwards?
No, I think I share a little bit in the beginning. My process is really has an open end, and I just move this box to another camping or something like that. In this case, I'm just here. So, and things things have to handle together. I mean, there's some audiovisual projects that were born pretty much in this real-time research, and I eject some of them and I create a piece. You know, I'm kind of like a aquarium, if I have to picture what I'm doing at the moment. But no. I need to create a sort of pool of things just to have the possibility to look around and like kind of archive myself in a way that I can really reopen a thought and move and go back or continue with that. Some of the elements were born here, some outside. Somebody will end up here. I start the new projects out of this. Sculptures, video installations, music videos. I mean, I try to create my framework, if you have to talk about a design perspective. But yeah, the ultimate goal or vision, it's maybe a bit too much to think, in my opinion. I don't know how to reply, to be honest. Like,
I told you, we're all suffering from capitalism, so we have to at least.
I hope that. I hope I can not die. Oh, my work is not attached to one specific platform or medium, and then.
Oh no! I'm not going to. Even though we're talking about capitalism, that does not mean that I'm going to segue straight to NFTs. I'm going to skip that for now.
Yeah, please.
And answer. No. Our other ultimate goal, which we can say, is that we hope that you get to Moscow, and I certainly want to come back, see friends there. There's another good goal with all this stuff. So we hope to see you soon. Paulina asks, that she knows that you're also using Unity to work with live performance in real time and full dome, as you're doing with our friend Robert Lipok.
Yeah.
And she asks, well, we're back into this, which tool do you want to use? But we talked about that too, right? Actually, because I also had this conversation with our friend Moises about why he was working in Unity. I know that this, especially for people starting out, right? This question of what to start in can be crippling to the point that you don't actually start. So they're probably that you could flip a coin between Unity and Unreal in some ways and be happy with either one. But was there a reason that you work with Unity? Is there a reason that you kind of stay with Unity? And how is it working in that sort of full dome live performance situation?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, like, maybe just to rephrase from the beginning, like, I definitely, I keep testing new tools, platforms, and so on, but I have to create like a sort of front line and see what are the things that are close to my hands, my desk. You know, for example, at the beginning was, maybe because I don't know, I came from a crisis moment. Let's say when I move out, I have to prepare in many directions, you know, and then also during university and trying to feel established in Europe from any direction. Just I was going through to a tsunami of opportunities, just learning everything. And then when I face when my audiovisual performance projects were dying because one software were not releasing updates in 4 years or something like that. Then it's something that something triggers a very insight, because I was using another tool for sketching my process, for just opening the software, you know, imagining something and trying to do it, and the tools just adapt to me, not in the other way. So, well, I feel like I choose the ground boat or something like that. And then when I face into this new real time, I say, okay, that's perfect. It collapsed with another thought about like the render is dead, the loop is dead. We are not rendering again. It's real time. It's actually real time, because when I was doing audiovisual performances, I was pre-rendering videos. I was spending so much time into editing, basically. I was an editor, or maybe a hardcore YouTube downloading things just to go on a club and try to.
Yeah, people don't know this about VJing, that was especially 10 years back or something, right? That was the VJ workflow. You spend like a week working on content and watching render bars, and then you take that into a club, and then everybody either ignores you or thinks that you're the DJ and starts making requests.
Yeah, or the idea of time, the idea of time, the time of preparation was completely different, the way of you consume that. So this 5-second loops I was taking 2 hours to prepare in a club, an event, or even in a gallery when you're presenting it just lasts 5 seconds. And it loops.
Well, I like that idea. I like that idea of really this area that we're doing this talk from, that it's real and immediate, and that you can improvise with it, especially as a performer.
And then I was taking over, you know, like kind of this is the end. So now I have to remix myself, and then I was going through another lines of recreating, rebuilding, resketching, outputs, inputs, and so on. I mean, as a BJ, I think we are kind of going in multi directions, and at some point, especially when the tools were going and still going in so many directions. That's why we are maybe they are asking about Unity and Unreal. I mean, we are arriving at, I'm talking as a BJ, as a visual artist, we arrive to these tools because the possibilities of visualizing in real time. And I started with Unreal. Maybe it took me a week or 2 weeks until literally my computer was just not enough, and that was the answer. You know, like what I can do like with a minimum, and then I have to readapt, and I start with Unity, and trying to see if I can really transfer what I was losing in another platform, if I can rebuild in this environment, and also work from there. So now I use them in planetarium projects, not in real time, because the systems on planetariums are a bit more complex, and not all of them have live input. So the freedom is is linked to a sort of technological bubble, you know, like we are
Yeah.
still
That was going to be my next question, actually. Yeah. So because Paulina asks about real time, but we should, at least when I saw this work last, you were happy to kind of render stuff in advance. Has that shifted at all? I mean, you know, you're doing this new work with Robert at the planetarium here in Berlin. So we're talking about full dome projection. So literally in this case, Lucas is walking into a planetarium here in Berlin, and instead of projecting on a rectangle, projecting on the dome of the planetarium. But it's like a slightly more than 8K system or something. It's like 9K. I forget. It's a lot of
at the
pixels
moment
to push.
it's standard.
So how
now it's a standardized 4K, and I think it's also interesting that you start to, I mean, people get to know the mediums because the quality and the resolution they offer, you know, like this machinery of things and all the things that we have to face, you know, like kind of it's my computer, it's my process, it's the texture I created can handle those outputs or why we are going to that. And most of my projects, especially in the first one that I collaborate with Robert, which was non-phase, I tried to reduce to the maximum the elements where I can represent and play with this machinery of a planetarium, high level screen resolution and so on, when you can see from all the sides. And the project, you can see a reflected in this environment, because the textures is probably like a kind of a transmedia thing I'm trying to do. So the project was talking about the existence of the two sides on the virtual elements. Like, for example, if you walk through this object, it actually doesn't exist from the other side, right? So they always have one frontal face. And so I try to use
Wait, say
it
again.
Yeah.
So if you cross this object, it's disappearing because it doesn't have a face on the other side.
Yeah, it's technically it's called like normals, flipped normals. So basically they exist from the outside only. But
it's like a theater space, or like Disney World or something, right? There'd be like buildings off to the side, and it actually just a false front, and there's nothing behind it.
Yeah, so that space is where all the mistakes, glitch, and data mosh start to happen. Like, or at least we discovered that, and now we use it as a sort of way of expression. You know, like kind of the data mosh, the glitch, the noise effect, the blur, the gradient. There are elements that were born about this, the way that we stress the platforms and the system. So I'm using this glitch here because now it's just a script that does that. But if you're seeing this in a YouTube stream, you probably can see that this is just a laggy connection I have. So there's so many ways that we could align to this and also play with this idea. And in planetarium, where probably the medium was just it was a physical collective experience, which is a bit different from what we are having in the last year. So people have to choose a seat and only watch a piece from one angle, right? So, and then next or something like that. So nowadays, let's say with the virtual dome or with all the simulation we have, we can recreate that, and then you can get closest to the screen, or you can really phase and crush the texture of the elements, and you can really fly through this universe that we recreate. And so all the projects that ended up in a planetarium, they are pretty much simplifying the idea of resolution, of smoothness of surfaces, and what happen if what is I don't think it's full HD 5K will start to show something nice out of it. You know, I think there will become something more crispy and maybe ugly out of that. So I also try to push a bit more this idea, not the technical resolution, the idea of facing and encountering imaginary, like through this medium. Maybe that's something that is
the important thing for folks to take away from this, especially who saw our exhibition, is and saw Lucas's pieces, is that the work that you're doing is in this kind of virtual medium can take a lot of different forms. So it can be adapted to making physical objects, doing sort of traditional single channel video installation, like this piece that's on the screens at MoMA now. And it can also become a performance that's real time. It can also be sort of rendered out and wind up on a dome for a performance on a dome, all with lots of different challenges. But I guess to anybody kind of, so, you know, because I also I have the luxury of not only being an artist myself, but also kind of stepping back and writing about the technology or talking to people about their perspectives, divorced from having to finish projects in them myself. I guess to people who are still troubled by this Unity versus Unreal question, I would say they each have really huge, strong communities. Unity has the more established kind of artist community, but Unreal's is growing a lot. So I think that's starting to balance out. One of the biggest differences between these two engines now is that for audiovisual stuff is that Unreal has its own sound engine built into it, and kind of there's like a modular sound environment that is part of Unreal. But then Unity, you can also use something called pure data and build music that way. So basically, people shouldn't be too worried about choosing those tools. Probably the most dangerous thing, and I assume you can feel this, Lucas, is if you get stuck between the two and try to switch between them all the time, then that's usually when stuff doesn't get done, because you just wind up.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand the languages that we could use, because not necessarily we have to become experts and keen of the plugin and addicts of the updates, because that's something they're just languages. And I'm also, of course, I'm interested in all of them, and I think it wake up a lot of anxiety, especially in the last year that we have to move to some platforms. But I think it's understanding the medium, taking the time to see and to learn how to communicate with other artists that they are actually using or executing on the tool. I think it's also like a way of creation. You don't have to, we don't have to become a tutorial game or person.
No.
I think it's also like kind of, it just remind me like the tutorial we create for the short film I Need a Break from Shiny. There is a ping pong, like there is a way of introduction of something, like how we can keep improving, and they're just tools, and if we can manipulate them, will be the best. If they are really taking over our process and we understand that we are going to, our work or art will disappear with them, I just run out of them. That's what I'm doing, just running out when I feel manipulated for those tools.
I am going to take Julian's question, this NFT question in a second, but if there are any other questions, go ahead and type them into YouTube before we wrap up today. It could be about anything.
But the NFT question is too technical, or what?
No, let's do it. I wanted to ask about but before we ask the NFT question, I want to tell us about the banana. What's the story of the banana? Maybe I'm just potassium deficient, but I really appreciate that there's this beautiful banana in the environment.
Yes, true. There's one here. This space was the representation. The space was empty, right? And there was a representation of a concept I did together with the people from Fuchsbau Festival here in Germany. And I think it was in 2017. We all together thought about digital emptiness. So by then I don't know, maybe I'm missing some dots, but I can tell you what I remember at the moment. Like, we just sit together. We have no sort of solid structure of what to show, and then and somehow we say, okay, or maybe I just turn it off and turn it on and say, okay, then we show nothing. And we create this room, and they were going bananas, or something. They were going really crazy. So I don't know how is the representation of the translation in Spanish, but there was a sort of craziness, anxiety of like really trying to show up and address and address a concept of a festival visually. And I was literally taking over for the first time in the communication of this, and we use the icon of the banana as a sort of element that that has all the senses and that we can at least play with. And we ended up also having bananas in the festival. There was a room banana. People smell bananas in the room. Probably there was a sponsor. We go really mad about it. And every week we fill this room with the announcement of the artist. So first of all, we introduce the lineup or the date. No lineup, the date. There was just this banana here. The second week, as soon as we are getting more information of that, we add some elements. So we add some text on the wall and so on. Then we add some names. Then we add another one. So we've been creating the concept while we were getting the information clear. And it was not a solid closed idea. It was a very wide open. And by then there was not solid WebXR platform. WebGL was shitty, and so we couldn't really hang this game on the web browser by then. So we kind of render out a video simulating you're walking in the room. And we ended up doing the whole stage design like in the same concept, like white. And so we took over from the game and we bring it to the stage.
I know there's some other, if our team is listening or anybody left from Russia wants to answer this, there's a different meaning to bananas. I know in Russia that has there's some long iconography and some saying about bananas, and I can't remember what it is. But yes, also in English, we say going bananas to mean crazy. I'm going to take the NFT question, which means I'm going to ironically take the other side and turn into again.
Maybe you are more expert in replying that.
Yeah. So the question is, what's your take on NFTs, and will you release some of your work there? Like, will we be able to spend the equivalent of 5,000 euros on or 50,000 euros on that banana?
Okay. To reply the last part is yes, I have one piece there, which is which I don't know actually to what to refer. Maybe it's a criticism, maybe it's a joke, maybe it's just an output. But I'm not. I think I don't know, or maybe I will not know completely like where things are going. You know, like I'm just curious about as everyone in this part.
But so far you haven't done it. You haven't kind of minted an NFT, but you've been. I mean, you've been doing a lot of other things. You created this virtual space for the Berlin Philharmonic. You're doing this show. You're doing these projects with Robert, right? So I mean, as your curator, I'm kind of tempted to say that you're doing real work, and not only these NFTs. I don't know.
Yeah, I did a mini research about just to learn what are the things related to this process of minting or creating a piece, or if it have to be something digital or not. I mean, there's a bunch of perspective that I'm still trying to process. But I just put my nose under the water 2 centimeters just to see how it looks, and I felt that was enough for now. Maybe might change a little bit, but I'm not really down yet to really commit. Or I'm sure the thing will have a bigger impact for everyone. What I'm not sure if we all have to be pushed to this bottleneck now. I think we have to all spend a little bit of time to rethink as a way of expression, if it's related to crypto art, NFT, or whatever. As a method in the blockchain, I think it works, but it doesn't mean have to work for everyone.
Sure. All right. I think we should kind of come towards wrapping up. So I didn't tell you we're gonna do this, but let's try a lightning round. Because I love these phrases, and I want to expand on them, but maybe they should be. Wait, maybe we have another question. Okay.
I mean, you are only watching the comments. I'm just imagining.
No, I'm going to go back to your comments, and I'm curious what. Okay, I'm gonna say one of these phrases and not to demystify them, but
but we can deconstruct the idea if you want.
Let's do so. But lightning round. So I'll say one of the phrases, and you can say a roughly similar kind of one-liner about what it's meaning to you right now, today. Saturday, the 8th of May, sitting in Berlin, but
Or
also
where
in the
they come
metaverse.
from, because I think most of them have a small story, I guess.
Okay, but lightning round. So see how quickly you can tell this story.
Oof.
Age of similar people meeting similar people.
Okay. Yeah, I think the connection we feel with others is literally because we have something in common. There's no surprise out of it. The
Well, let me ask a question then about that one. Do you feel that circle?
I think it was related to the dating app the moment that I write it. I'm trying to recap. I think it was related to the moment of Tinder generation, or in Germany was another different app like Partship.de, like what, I was related more like this, like how we are meeting people just because we are similar. I don't know, maybe it's something like another topic that I was writing about, like IP friends, like the idea that we think we share content. Maybe it's just because we share the same IP, and that's how we build our illusion that we collectively share an experience. But I mean, I think it's explanatory though. What do you feel about that?
Do you feel like that? I mean, especially because kind of looking at, we're sort of coming out of this thing now here, we hope, but so much of the rest of the world isn't. I mean, how do we bring back some of that chaos so that it's not only people meeting similar people in the midst of all this social distancing, or are people likely to kind of get more and more balkanized, tribalized because of that isolation?
I don't know, maybe
a lightning round question. That's a deep question.
Yeah, maybe someone in the comments can answer that.
Yeah, let's think about that. Suffering from somebody's hammering on my wall. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's very nice.
Yeah, I think this, maybe I can just pin the stories behind that, which is probably something that I have more clear at the moment, because they are currently, I mean, I think we talked before, like some of the sentences on the question that we tried to share, they were they appear in a different moment where I was pretty much connecting with other things. But reading this now, of course, everyone will have different, they will reflect differently. I don't know. The one that you say is suffering from capitalism.
Okay, well, how about crying in VR? What happens when you cry in VR? Do you like short circuit the goggles, actually?
Well, you're pretty close to the idea of how this was born. Actually, it was I mean, now we're supposed to be all in VR, right? And everyone have to own a headset, and this conversation should be on an XR platform, but it's not. And so
good product placement then. Yes, go on.
Okay, we are missing something.
You were saying. Well, no, I've been at her. I'll be an Oculus now. Go on.
Maybe you can do the unboxing when I'm criticizing this.
Yeah.
No, I have it as well. But the thing is that when I was when I was thinking about this, it's also like this was pretty much connected to a product design side. Like I think we also talk about the idea like how we start to use a medium platforms, a tool that's supposed to connect in ourselves. And I think this is a sculpture that is here and also will be a physical material. The crying in VR, like I don't know how, maybe it was probably like a moment of loneliness, or how you can really connect through how what's the distance between each other using these devices, and what happened if I really cry, but for real, into this environment. Not talking about psychology, also family, distance, whatever. What happened if we just stress one product and make it collapse just with a single tear? Like, can it handle it from the product design? So it was probably like more like a joke of what happened if I really cry in VR. Should I take it out? Should I stay in this inside and experiencing what just caused that? And of course, I don't know. I just stop it there. Most of the sentences I'm just stop it in the moment that I have probably no answer to that. But it was starting.
Like, like making you explain a joke or something. But it's an interesting.
But
concept.
It was, and then I face it together to two persons with a headset, and now I'm trying to to create a sculpture or maybe ceramic porcelain out of it.
Yeah, I like this. I like this image. Yeah, it's sort of quite beautiful somehow. The merging VR headsets.
I think that it was more about, I mean, maybe that sentence is more like the trigger I use for composing, creating, or doing something else with that. That they doesn't necessarily have to be an explanation out of that. Probably if you ask me about Crying in VR, I will show you now this sculpture of two people connected when there is no distance. And
it also shows that you're going to have trouble making out in VR unless you kind of, I don't know, you're going to keep hitting your.
There was a moment that there was a possibility that I almost did a theater performative piece in VR, and I was suggesting that the two people are kind of locked and face to face during the whole performance. I think it just stayed there.
This is what was the name of this? What's the name of this quite famous piece where you body swap with VR? It was also really poetic use of this technology, and now I can't remember what it's called. But you get two users and they swap. So they get to look through the other person's. School bother me. I'll look it up later. I'll type it into the chat or something. And we'll edit it into the video. Last. Or I'll Google while you give us the next answer. Last question, robots looking for a job. I really like this.
I mean, there was another three ones.
We're going to send robots to the job center and see what happens to them.
I mean, that moment that I probably write that, it was probably I was connected with someone near to my family, or this idea that someone will take over that we all been through, like learn Microsoft Office now or learn something in the past, maybe in the moment, like a robot, or the idea of robot taking the job of someone. I wrote it like, and then I just put the idea of robots stressing the idea of if robots have to go through all this anxiety, fears that we all experience one day. And this sentence, I think, have two other ones. It was robots losing their jobs. Then what happened with them? They are looking for a job again, and psychologists for robots. So there was like a 3 sentences that were looping constantly. And this exhibition that actually we get to know more, I guess, was content indifference. There was a sort of thoughts and writers that they were looping in a sort of casino gamble screen, holographic screen. So there's a family of this, like I tried to recreate the trilogy of what will happen if Lucas loses his job. Then Lucas, we need a psychologist for Lucas maybe, and then Lucas is looking for a job again. So I tried to play with that sense and that it will happen to them. And by then I think it was Sophia or another robots going, AI entities going to every TV show. And so I tried to picture by then, like, okay, there's robots on TV now, so they're actually looking for a job or something like that. I was trying to picture this, like we literally start to see them more often on the media, and the media talk about them as an extension of, I don't know, us. And so I kind of picture more and this funny trilogy of like, okay, they will lose a job and then they are looking for a job again, and maybe if they lose it again, they need psychologists for robots or something like that.
Yeah, I like this concept. Be another lab was the answer I was looking for, and from Barcelona, who did this project where you try to experience empathy through VR headsets. But then I think your sculptural iteration here is also kind of a nice embodiment of that concept. Well, I think we should this is the point where we would go and get a coffee, get a wine, do all that stuff. We'll have to do it separately, but I think it's a good time to wrap up. Lucas, thanks so much for inviting us into your brain.
Thanks so much.
And So we really appreciate it to all of our friends across Europe. Hope to see you soon. And thanks so much to our partners, the Moscow Museum of Modern Art, to Anna and Gleb, my co-curators, the Kotai platform, and also to Goethe Institute for their support, Goethe Institute Moscow. We appreciate all of you. Hope to see all of you soon. In the meantime, thanks so much. Enjoy your Saturday evening or whatever day it is as you're watching this video, maybe from the afterscape, maybe as a robot looking for wasting time while you're waiting for the job center to call. But regardless, see you all soon. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks so much. Have a nice.
Bye.
Bye-bye.